Welcome back, Deep Divers. Today, we're gonna unpack this idea of identity, escape, and the price of a double life,
Oh, intriguing.
right? And all this comes from, well, our source material is the Amazon listing for "What Have You Done, Zoe Bloom?" It's a book by Aga Lizievich.
Now, it's interesting, just the premise alone is already like sparking all these questions about like who we are and who we want to be.
Yeah, exactly. So picture this, right? You're Fiona, our main character, a voiceover artist, living in London, newly single, and you're feeling like your acting dreams are kind of like on hold.
Hmm.
Not exactly glamorous, is it?
Not really, no.
But then, bam,
Mm-hmm.
you get this crazy chance to basically step into the life of Zoe Bloom, who is like everything you're not.
Oh, wow.
Right. It really taps into that, I don't know, that almost like human urge to escape, to kind of shed your everyday existence and become someone else, someone who seems more successful, more exciting.
There's actually like research on
Who
this.
is there?
Yeah. They call it escapism. And some psychologists believe it can actually be a healthy coping mechanism, like, a way to de-stress and recharge.
Okay, so a little daydreaming never hurt anyone. Right?
All right.
But Fiona's taking it like way further than just daydreaming.
Oh, yeah.
She's actually going to become Zoe,
Mm.
at least for a while. And the book description even mentions these trips to Germany, to Paris, the French Riviera.
Fancy.
I know. It's like escaping into a travel brochure.
Right. And that's where it gets really, really interesting because it's not just about, running away from problems. It's about yearning for like a totally different identity.
Yeah.
Think about it. Have you ever like been so stressed or bored that you've just wished you could just disappear and become someone else?
Oh, all the time.
Fiona's actually doing that, but with like sky high stakes.
Oh, totally. It's like that feeling when you're scrolling through social media and, everyone else's life seems perfect except yours.
Mm-hmm.
But Fiona actually gets to live that perfect life.
Yeah.
But is it really perfect, though?
Right.
Because the Amazon reviews are hinting at, like, dark secrets, unexpected consequences, and even mentioning this whodunit element. So it's like, oh, what's going on here?
So then it begs the question, what happens when our desire for reinvention goes too far?
Right.
Is Fiona trying to find herself by like becoming someone else, or is she going to lose herself in the process?
Oh.
There's this psychological concept called identity diffusion.
Mm.
It's where a person, they don't have like a clear sense of self, and they might try on different identities almost like clothes.
Oh.
So that could be what's happening with Fiona.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, she is stepping into Zoe's life to escape her own.
Right.
But what if Zoe's life is a whole other, like, mess? It's like trading one problem for, like, a whole set of new ones.
Exactly. And that's what makes psychological thrillers so gripping.
Yeah.
They take this like universal desire we all have to hit the reset button on our lives, and they show us that like the potential dark side. It's like a cautionary tale reminding us that even if we could be someone else, we might not like what we find.
And I think the fact that it's set against the backdrop of, London's competitive art scene, that just makes it, like, even more intense, right?
Oh, definitely.
Like, you can almost feel the pressure Fiona's under and how tempting Zoe's world must seem.
Absolutely. That setting, I mean, it could be like a breeding ground for envy and ambition, the kind that might push someone to do things they wouldn't normally consider.
Yeah.
And that's before we even get to the potential bad players the reviews mention.
Okay, so we have Fiona trying to escape her reality by becoming Zoe.
Yeah.
But who is Zoe, really? Is she a willing participant in all of this, or is she a victim too? And what about those bad players lurking around? This deep dive is already getting twisty.
It's like the author is dangling this escape fantasy in front of us, but as we get closer, we see the cracks, the hints of danger.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps us hooked, right? We want to know, will Fiona find what she's looking for in Zoe's life, or will she find something way more sinister?
Ooh. Right.
Right.
I can't wait to find out.
It's like we're all a little bit drawn to this idea of a secret identity,
Yeah.
like a chance to kind of rewrite our story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no wonder superhero stories are so popular.
Yeah. I mean, it's the ultimate power fantasy, right?
Yeah.
To become someone extraordinary.
Right.
But in Fiona's case, she's not trying to save the world. She's trying to, like, escape it.
Escape it, right.
And that's where the psychological thriller element comes in, right?
Exactly.
What are the mental and emotional consequences of actually living a lie?
Well, you can imagine, I mean, the constant fear of being exposed.
Right.
It'd be like walking a tightrope, right? One wrong step and everything comes crashing down.
Totally.
That kind of chronic stress can really impact your mental health.
I bet.
There's even a term for it, imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
It's where you constantly feel like a fraud, like you're just waiting to be found out.
Oh, that's got to be awful.
Yeah.
And remember those reviews mentioning bad players?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And a masterly whodunit. What if Fiona stumbles into something dangerous because she's pretending to be someone she's not?
Oh, gosh. See, that's the brilliance of this premise.
Right.
It layers that psychological drama with the thrills of a mystery.
Oh, totally.
Readers are already speculating, like, who are these bad players?
Right.
How are they connected to Zoe's life? Is Fiona just caught in a web of lies, or is there something more sinister going on?
I love how the Amazon listing is just giving us these like little breadcrumbs of information.
Yeah.
And our imaginations are just like running wild.
Right.
Some reviewers are even wondering if Zoe herself might be involved in something shady.
Ooh.
It's like we're trying to solve the puzzle alongside Fiona.
Totally. And speaking of truth, there's this, like, deeper question here about the nature of identity. Is who we are, like, fixed, unchanging, or can we actually reinvent ourselves?
It's like that age-old question, right? Nature versus nurture. Are we born with a set personality, or can we shape who we become through our experiences and choices?
Exactly. And Fiona's case, I mean, she's taking that to the extreme. She is
Okay.
literally trying on a new identity to see if it fits. But what if, like, the more she tries to become a Zoe, the further she gets from her true self?
Oh, that's deep. It's like she's losing herself in the role,
Right.
forgetting who she is underneath the mask.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, if you had the chance to be someone else, even just for a little while, would you risk losing yourself in the process?
That's the ethical dilemma at the heart of this whole story.
Right.
Is it ever okay to pretend to be someone you're not?
Yeah.
Even if it means escaping, like, a difficult reality? And then what are the consequences, not just for ourselves, but for the people around us?
Yeah, those are some heavy questions.
They are.
It's like this book is this fun, escapist thriller on the surface,
Right.
but underneath, it's exploring some really profound ideas about identity, morality, and, like, the choices we make.
It is, and that's what elevates it beyond a typical, genre read. It's a story that kind of stays with you long after you finish it, makes you think about, the masks we all wear and the lengths we might go to just for a taste of a different life.
So we've got this, like, tantalizing blend of psychological suspense,
Yes.
a juicy mystery, and some, like, big questions about identity.
Absolutely.
But we haven't really talked about the ending yet.
That's right.
What can you tell us, without giving anything away, of course?
Well, the reviews use phrases like mind-blowing twist and couldn't put it down.
Ooh.
So it sounds like the author really delivers on the suspense and keeps us guessing till the very last page.
I love a good twist.
Me too.
It's like the author's leading us down this winding path, and just when we think we know where we're going, bam, everything changes.
It's a reminder that in life, just like in fiction, things are rarely what they seem.
Yeah.
And sometimes the truth can be way more surprising and dangerous than we ever imagined.
Okay, so we've got mystery, suspense, psychological intrigue, and a potentially explosive ending.
It's a good mix.
But there's one more thing I'm curious about.
Okay.
The book mentions these, like, glamorous locations, Germany, Paris, the French Riviera.
Oh, yes.
How do you think those settings contribute to the story?
Well, I think they add a layer of, like, escapism and heightened reality.
Okay.
They're not just, like, random travel destinations.
Yeah.
They represent a world of, beauty, sophistication, and maybe even danger,
Whoa.
which contrasts sharply with Fiona's everyday life in London.
It's like those locations are symbolic of the life Fiona, like, craves.
Mm-hmm.
A life of freedom, adventure, and maybe even a little bit of risk.
Yeah.
And remember, the book description mentions that Zoe is far more glamorous and daring than Fiona.
Oh, that's right.
So maybe those locations also reflect Zoe's personality.
It could, like, those settings are another character in the story.
Hmm.
They shape Fiona's experiences and influence her choices.
Interesting.
They're a constant reminder of the life she's trying to escape into.
Right.
And the potential consequences that come with it.
It's like the author's using those locations to, like, heighten the stakes and create a sense of unease.
Yeah.
We know Fiona's in over her head, and these exotic locales just, like, amplify that feeling.
They do.
And they also play into the mystery element, right? Remember those bad players mentioned in the
I
reviews?
know, right, right.
What if those shadowy figures are connected to Zoe's travels?
Ooh.
What if Fiona stumbles into something dangerous in one of those exotic locales?
Well, that's a good point. It's like those locations aren't just beautiful backdrops.
Right.
They're potential traps waiting to snare Fiona in this web of deceit.
And that's what makes this story so compelling.
It is.
It blends the psychological drama of identity with the thrills of a mystery
Mhm.
and the allure of these exotic locations. It creates a truly immersive and unforgettable reading experience. So we've got a struggling artist yearning for a different life, a mysterious woman whose identity is up for grabs, a cast of bad players lurking in the shadows, and a series of glamorous locations that could be both alluring and dangerous. It's like the perfect recipe for a psychological thriller that will keep us on the edge of our seats.
And at its core, it's a story about the choices we make, the masks we wear, and the consequences of trying to be someone we're not. It's a reminder that the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and that sometimes the greatest journey is the one we take to discover our true selves.
And we're back. I'm still kind of processing all those twists and turns we found in What Have You Done, Zoe Bloom. It's crazy how just the Amazon listing makes you think so much about, like, identity and what our choices really cost us.
Yeah, it really shows how, especially these days, we're just bombarded with these pictures of, like, perfect lives,
Oh,
especially on social
Yeah,
media.
it's true. Everyone's posting their, highlight reel. It can make you feel like you're the only one struggling.
Mhm.
And maybe that's part of what makes Fiona want to escape into Zoe's life, right? It's not just about wanting more. It's about feeling like less than.
That's a really good point. It's almost like she's trying to, I don't know, like, borrow someone else's happiness,
Yeah.
borrow their success
Yeah.
instead of facing her own challenges.
Right?
But like we talked about, there's always a hidden cost.
And in Fiona's case, that cost seems, well, pretty steep. The reviews talk about unexpected consequences.
Hmm.
They even hint that things might get a little deadly,
Oh, yikes.
right? Makes you think of that Greek myth about Icarus,
Oh,
who flew too close to the sun.
with his wax wings.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The higher he went, the closer he got to, well, disaster.
right.
Fiona wanting to be Zoe so bad, it could be like her version of those wings,
Mm-hmm.
taking her super high, but she could totally crash and burn.
Ooh, that's a great comparison. Makes you wonder about the ending, though. Does she get burned by her choices, or does she land safely? The reviews mention a mind-blowing twist, so I'm definitely curious to see what happens.
Yeah, I love a good twist.
Me too.
I think that's part of why people are so into psychological thrillers.
Yeah.
They play on that thing we have, that, fascination with the dark side of people.
Oh, for sure.
Like, what choices will people make if they think they can get away with anything?
Right, and we get to kind of explore those moral gray areas
Yeah.
without actually risking anything ourselves.
It's like a safe way to explore, I don't know, our shadow selves,
Mm.
those parts of us that might be tempted by a shortcut to happiness, even if it means, bending the rules a bit.
Yeah, I get that.
And the whodunit part, that just adds a whole other layer.
Oh, definitely.
It makes us question everything about the characters.
Mm.
We're kept guessing until the very end.
Keeps you on your toes.
Right. So we've talked about Fiona's motivations,
Yeah.
the whole psychology of identity. You brought in some Greek mythology.
Yes.
But before we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
one last question for you. If you could ask the author anything about What Have You Done, Zoe Bloom?
That's a good one. What would I ask? I think I'd want to know what they hope readers will take away from the story. Like, is it a warning about escapism? Or is it more about, our need to reinvent ourselves and how complicated identity can be?
That's a great question. I'd love to hear the author's answer. And for you listening, maybe that's something to think about as you read the book. What message do you think the author's trying to get across?
It's a good reminder that even made-up stories can hold up a mirror to our own lives.
Yeah.
They can make us think about our choices, what we value, and, who we really are deep down.
So as we close out our deep dive into What Have You Done, Zoe Bloom, we're left with more than just a glimpse of a really good psychological thriller. We've looked at what makes escape so appealing, how complex identity is, and what our choices can lead to, all through this, fascinating book.
And maybe even more important, we're reminded that even fiction can teach us about ourselves and what it means to be human. So next time you're wishing for a different life, remember Fiona's story.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what's the price I'm willing to pay to be someone else? And is it really worth the risk?
That's all for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.